Hello dear chess lovers, the Chess Coach Reacts series continues today with a game by Satya. Satya lives in Austin, Texas, and he played an online game which was 30 minutes long. Very soon we will start hearing Satya analyzing his own game, and I will stop at the key moments and give my live reactions to Satya, and later on we will draw some conclusions. Satya, thank you so much again for your kind thoughts about this channel. Wishing you all the best. Hopefully, my reactions will help you fix some problems. Let's start. Satya starts talking.
Hi, I'm Satya. I live in Austin, Texas, in United States, and this is a 30-minute game that I played recently. My opponent started e4. I am not familiar with openings,
Okay.
so whenever someone goes e4, I go e5 and then try to develop my pieces quickly, trying to keep my control over the center. So I go with the common sense approach, and I also try to prevent them from going e5 or d5. So that is the extent of my opening knowledge.
So Satya has reached 1560 without having any opening study. He doesn't memorize any moves, any lines. He's just following opening principles. Let's see how he is taking this opening with the black pieces.
I will start with e5. This move
Oh,
is
super.
not familiar to me,
Yep.
but my gut instinct is go c6 followed by d5 so that I can contest the center.
Yes.
I'm glad to see that he did not move his knight to c3,
Aha.
but I do not know openings. Maybe knight c3 is a bad move. Um,
So Satya, he's giving you this d4 outpost by playing c4 on move 2, right? I'm sure you're familiar with weak squares in chess. Look at this d4 square. No white pawn can control that square for the rest of the game. So positionally speaking, you have an advantage in this position. Slight advantage, nothing big, but that's something that could shape your middle game play later on. Okay? So let's see whether you actually exploited this d4 square later on.
I was fearing that he would go knight c3 and then increase the control over the d5 square. So
Right,
that didn't happen.
right.
So let me go with my plan of going d5.
Correct. Nice.
Okay, knight to d2.
Mhm.
So my plan is to develop and castle. I see that his queen side pawns, he already advanced them and
Mhm.
kind of weakened the queen side for
Okay.
castling. So I'm a bit comfortable in developing and planning kingside castling
Yes.
because he probably will need to castle kingside too if he castles.
Yes.
If he does that, he probably will be careful in pushing his pawns in front of his king.
Hmm.
So I think it is safe for me to make plans to castle on kingside. So
Correct.
let me develop my knight.
Beautiful. Beautiful developing move. The most flexible by far. You're also hitting the center, by the way. You're controlling d5. What can be more natural than this, right? Without having any opening knowledge, no theory, you're making the most principled and the correct move, Satya.
Now he's attacking my pawn on e5.
Yes.
So I want to develop my bishop and at the same time protect the pawn. So bishop d3 makes sense.
Bishop d6.
With this move, I think his intention is to put his bishop on b2.
Correct.
And if he does that, my plan is to push my pawn to d5 and shunt that bishop. But
To
I do
d4.
not want to push my pawn to d5 right away because I
Nice.
do not know what he wants to do.
Very nice logic. He doesn't release the tension with d4. That will be premature. right? Maybe you can do it if he plays bishop d2 on the next turn, because that bishop will be shut down from the game. But it's very good already that you're keeping this pawn tension, Satya. Many beginners below your level could not keep this tension between those pawns. They would capture on e4 or c4 directly. So I very much like why you preserve the tension, because if white takes twice on d5, it's only helping our knight, right? Our knight will become a hero on d5 in this position. White will also give us a backward pawn on a semi-open file on d3. So of course, taking twice will be bad for white, and thus you're keeping the tension in this position. Beautiful.
So I know I need to castle. So I will castle first and see
Beautiful.
and react based on what he moves.
Yeah, the most flexible.
Okay, looks like he's also planning to castle. Now I need to develop my knight and the bishop. They say that developing knights before bishops is
Yes,
the way to go, but I don't
generally.
see a good piece for my good square for my knight.
Aha,
If I go knight d7, that will
block the
obstruct my
bishop.
c8 bishop.
Yes.
And if I go knight a8, a6,
Aha.
where would I go then?
Yeah, it's hard. It's
If
hard.
I go after going knight a6, I cannot aim for b4 because he's going to chase away my knight
Correct.
with a6, a3. Also, I cannot go to knight c4 because he
C5.
may chase my knight away
Yeah,
with
could be chased.
b4. And then when I move my knight back, he may push his c pawn to
To C5.
c5.
Okay.
Then that's going to essentially block my bishop. So I don't want to do that. So looks like I don't have any good square for knight. So let me develop the bishop first. I know I can go to bishop to
Beautiful.
g4, but I don't want to exchange
Correct.
my light squared bishop for his knight.
Correct.
And if I don't want to exchange, I see no point in going to g4
Right.
because I will not be pinning his queen. So I
Aha.
will go bishop e3
E6.
and protect my d5 pawn one more time.
Correct. You see the logical chain of thinking, guys? We can learn a lot from Satya. He doesn't have any opening knowledge whatsoever. He never memorized anything, but his logical chain of thinking is quite accurate. How he castle quickly, how he develop the pieces, how he fight for the center, how he's using his logic of moving the bishop out first before going to d7 with his knight. You see? His reasoning in chess is quite developed. His analytical thinking is quite developed. He's asking questions, very useful questions in finding those moves, right? Shows us even without any theoretical knowledge, we can still make very logical and strong moves in the opening, in fact. It's quite already, I think, the very instructive part from this game so far, Satya. Aha, now he
cd.
takes.
I see no other option.
That was a bad exchange for white. Can you explain to me why, all of you folks, c takes d5 was a bad exchange for white? Please tell me. What's the main reason for that? To me, one reason is this, folks, maybe the most important. Our bad knight on b8, which we had no idea where to place, now has this beautiful c6 square on the next turn. By taking on d5, white has awakened our knight on b8. Now that might become a hero on c6, also targeting, as mentioned, the outpost on d4, right? That knight will be putting pressure on the weak square on d4 for the rest of the game. Thus, this tension breaking move c takes d5 was incorrect. An extremely typical mistake at this level, Satya. Very instructive.
And cd.
Oh, he takes
Now
twice.
I have two choices. I could
He
take
takes
with my
twice.
bishop, but I feel that taking with knight is better
Yes.
because in future I could go to knight f4
f4, of course.
and pressure the isolated
Of
pawn.
course.
And also I'm thinking of taking my knight to c3 and
Right.
forking his bishop
Oof.
and queen
Oof.
and exchange my knight for his bishop. I know that his bishop is passive and my knight is
Yes.
active.
Yes.
and probably that's not a good idea. But I see that this is an open board,
Of course.
and bishop pair is better in open board. So my thinking is exchanging a good knight for bad bishop. The disadvantage is offset by retaining the bishop pair. So let me take with knight.
Such an instructive mistake from your opponent. This case, you're learning a lot from the opponent's mistakes. Folks, this itself deserves a separate video. How white took twice on d5 for no reason. Strategic chess crime. No one forced white to take twice on d5, and as a result, what happened? Let's list all the advantages we gained as a result of white's last couple of moves. As mentioned, this knight is going to c6. That's number one. Second, this knight on d5 become an excellent piece as a result of white's chess crimes. The guy can go to f4, can go to c3. You don't need deep calculation about knight c3 and exchange ramifications. You just play knight e5 because the guy is placed excellently in the center of the board. Right, Satya? This doesn't require deep calculation. You play knight takes e5 because you see already the guy has potential from that spot. Final problem with c takes d5. The guy gave us the weak pawn on d3 on a semi-open file. He destroyed his position by taking twice on d5. Such an instructive and hidden chess crime that only a chess coach can describe properly. People need to change their mental models. As mentioned, people have difficulty keeping the tension on the board. He couldn't keep the tension. He took twice. And already here I would say black has a clear advantage. Why? As mentioned, central structure, better pawn structure, no weaknesses, beautiful central control, beautiful pieces, and a backward pawn on d3. Satya, you understand, right? Once I break it down to its core, you understand why black is having a huge positional domination in this position already. Thanks to white's chess crimes.
Right now he went. Now my pawn on e5 is attacked twice and
Yes.
defended once. So I need to defend it. I could go
Knight c6.
queen c7 and defend it, but when he goes to rook c1, I will have to
Yeah.
move my queen and then he can chop off
Doesn't
my
look right.
pawn. So defending with queen on c7 is not a good option. And how about defending by moving queen to f6?
No, 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 no.
That would
No.
put
Knight
my
e4.
queen in the crosshairs of his bishop.
Yes, also knight e4 is coming.
And I don't know, later on I may forget and
No.
lose.
Satya, why don't you make the most natural move? Knight c6. The guy gave us the beautiful c6 square for the knight. Why don't you just move the knight and develop and also defend e5? That's the most flexible, that's the most natural, please. This is a clear mistake of thinking so far, Satya. Maybe it's a visualization mistake. Maybe you don't see that the knight can now go to c6, right? You're tunnel visioning because you were only focusing on d7 before. And now things have changed. Come on, knight c6.
My queen, so I want to play it safe and protect my e5 pawn by moving f2 to f3.
f6.
I know when I do that, my king
Okay.
will be weakened.
That's also
But
logical.
I don't see
That's
any
also
way
logical.
of him
Yeah, your king is safe.
to exploit this weakness.
Right.
Because I have a light squared bishop
Correct.
on the same diagonal
Correct.
as my g8 king, and also I have my rook on f8, and I don't see any tactics. And by
Right.
moving f6, the other advantage is I will be shunting
The bishop.
his bishop on b2.
Correct.
So I
Correct.
like that move.
f6 is correct, but again, I would prefer knight c6 because, I mean, what is my knight doing on b8? I need to move the guy to c6 anyways. So to me, this is still the most flexible move, Satya. Knight c6, if they put more pressure, let's say with knight c4, maybe there's bishop b4 check to worry about for white. But after, let's say, they castle, maybe then I can consider, yeah, slowly playing b6. You need to make the most flexible move first in your position. Also, by now playing f6, you're right, the bishop is blunted, your king is very safe, excellent analysis. Look at the white pieces, they are not in a position to attack you. But now you are, for example, allowing moves like d4 to white. Can you see it, Satya? It's about the opponent's resources. If he goes d4 in this position, he's activating the knight and the bishop as well. Also, he's getting rid of the backward pawn on d3. Also activating this guy on e2. Can you see it, Satya? By not developing your pieces, you're giving them a chance of the central pawn structure change, which is clearly helping the white pieces. It must be obvious right now that d4 must be played for white. Let's see whether he did that. Oh, he doesn't do it.
Okay, he
He
castled.
misses. He
So
misses a
now
chance.
I want to develop my last minor piece, the knight. And
Finally.
I'm happy to see that the c6 squared is cleared up for my
Beautiful.
knight.
Now you
So
see it.
instead of going to d7, c6, I think is more active square.
Of course, hitting the weakness. He should have still gone d4.
Okay, I failed to see that move knight
He
to
doesn't.
c4. Like, it totally escaped my mind that he has a juicy outpost.
No, that's not an outpost, Satya. This is not an outpost square for white. Why? Because at some point we can play f5 and chase away that piece from that post. It is not an outpost. d4 is an outpost because no white pawn can control d4. So you still have a very intact and good structure. The only way for white to fight here is to play d4. d4 would activate their pieces, also would get rid of the backward pawn on d3. He doesn't play d4. You gave him a chance to play d4 in 2 consecutive moves. He doesn't play it. Instructive.
On e4, that is bad calculation on my part, but without opening knowledge, there is only so much I can do.
It's not about your opening knowledge, Satya. You played very logical sequences so far without any memorization. Don't be too harsh on yourself. This is phantom fear. First of all, that is not an outpost square for the knight. Nothing to worry about, basically. And you followed opening principles almost perfectly until this moment.
For now, he's attacking my bishop. I do not want to give away my bishop pair, but I want to keep my bishop on this long diagonal, aiming his pawn on h2.
Ha,
So my options are either going to b8 or c7.
right.
If I go b8, I will be severing the connection between the rooks. Excuse me.
No problem.
So I would, so I plan to go to c7 and try to retain the bishop.
Okay. You're inviting knight c5.
Now he's forking my bishop, my light squared bishop on e6, and the pawn on b7. I need to protect both. My first inclination is to go queen e7, and if he chops off the pawn, if he takes knight takes b7,
Rook b8.
then I could go rook b8
Yes.
and attack his knight.
Or even bishop b6
But then
attacks the knight.
he would go rook c1 and attack my knight. And when I evacuate my knight, he can evacuate his knight to c5,
I see.
where it will be protected by his rook.
Yes. But Satya, at that moment, queen e7, knight takes b7, I'm seeing this bishop b6 move, which also hits the knight with your queen, right? And after rook c1, I can now take your knight while defending my knight on c6. Can you see it? So you're not giving yourself more choices at that moment. You're only seeing rook b8, but there's also this bishop b6 attack on the knight on b7. And I don't see how he's surviving with his knight on b7. Well, it will be captured on the next turn.
So I may end up losing a pawn unnecessarily. So let me go to queen c8 and protect both the bishop and the pawn. And if he chops off my bishop, too bad for me.
Yeah.
I would rather keep both the bishops, but there is only so much I can do now.
Okay.
Okay,
The good thing for you is this, Satya. The guy played how many moves with his knight only to be traded off for your bishop? Let's count. 1 move, 2 moves, 3 moves. They made 4 moves until this exchange, and your bishop only made 1 move so far. Can you look at the difference? This is why it looks like black is much better developed right now. Look at the black's position. It looks like we made more moves than white to come to this position. Also, we have a better central control, and this outpost on d4 is still relevant in this position. Okay? And also this pawn on d3 is weak, thus we can attack it with moves like rook d8 later. So you're still keeping your positional edge in this position. Please compare the white pieces with their black counterpart. Satya, look at the knight on f3, terribly restricted. Look at the bishop on b2, blunted by the pawn chain. Look at the bishop on e2, only a tall pawn. So even though you lost your, let's say, good bishop, I'm still preferring black from chess principles, evaluations, right? Better central control, better pieces, lack of weaknesses. Black is better to my mind, Satya. So please gain more self-confidence about such structures. The only way for white to change the picture is to play d4 right now, whether we found it or not. Let's see.
Minor pieces are gone. Let's see what he does.
Okay. Knight
So
d2
he
again.
moved his knight back. So
No,
it looks
it's
like he wants to put his bishop on f3 and activate it. And if he does that, I don't have to worry right away because my knight is protected by the queen. So for now,
right.
I will activate my rook on a8 and form a battery on e file, and that may come in handy later.
Okay. I would also consider rook d8 here, Satya. To me, this is also a very, very logical move, don't you think? Because the rook is eyeing the backward pawn on d3. That's how you form plans in chess, right? You look at the weaknesses, those targets, you look at your bad pieces, and you try to combine them. So to my mind, rook d8 is also extremely logical because there's clearly play on the semi-open d file in this position, correct? Your rook will also, of course, guard your knight on d5 against some bishop f3 ideas and so on. To me, rook d8 is definitely more flexible here.
Okay, as expected, he moved his bishop. My knight is protected by queen, but I think it would be good to move my knight to f4 and put pressure
Right.
on his d3
d3
pawn.
pawn. Beautiful.
Since that pawn is
Beautiful.
isolated, I can pile up on it
Of course.
with my knight, my queen, and rook.
That's correct. You say rook. That's why I'm arguing for rook d8 on the last move. Because rook d8 would also highlight knight f4 ideas. But then you'll be pressing the d3 pawn twice. Can you see it, Satya? This is a beautiful moment. If you understand this lesson truly, your positional chess will improve. You form plans by eyeing the weaknesses. You should have seen the backward pawn on d3 3 moves ago, maybe 4 moves ago, right? This would give you a much better plan in the middle game. Piece placement will depend on the weaknesses in the position. Satya, it's a very instructive moment for all of you folks.
And he probably cannot save the pawn. So let me go knight 4.
Of course. Beautiful. Huh. Huh.
He chopped
Yeah. What? He chops your knight on c6? With the bishop? That looks insane to me. That looks like an insane exchange to me, Satya. Now the queen will become a monster on this diagonal. Also, the d3 pawn is much less safe. He is destroying its position. After spending so much time again with the bishop, he's only exchanging off for the knight on c6. Incredible.
off my knight. So I have two options I could take with the b pawn, but then that would create an isolated pawn. And then when he puts his rook on c1, that becomes a target that I need to babysit.
Yes, you don't want that.
I want to retain the connected pawns on the queen side. So I will chop off, I will take his bishop with my queen.
Right.
And that would also create
Mate
a
in one thread.
threat of mate in one.
Of course.
But I'm sure he's going to see it and prevent it by either moving his f pawn or moving his knight.
There's also d3 that is hanging, by the way.
Okay, he moved his knight. Now I want to increase the pressure on the d3 pawn, and I will do so with my queen.
Okay.
Right? He pushed it. Now I do not want to take the pawn and activate his bishop.
Beautiful.
So my plan is to move my pawn to
Yes.
e4,
Cool.
and when his knight moves, push it up further to e3,
Activate your rook. Aha.
and when he takes f takes e3,
Aha.
rook takes e3, and he will not be in that resulting position. He will not be able to take my knight on f4 because it is protected
By the
by my
bishop.
bishop
Aha.
on c7. So with this exchange, I think my rook will be activated, and perhaps I could form a rook battery
Right. On the e
and
file.
create some weaknesses.
Cool.
And I still have that mate in one threat that is being protected by his knight. And if he makes a mistake, I can exploit the threat later on.
Right.
So let's move to e4. That will again shunt his. When I do that,
Shunt his
his
bishop.
bishop on
Yes.
d2 will be shunted
Yes.
by his own pawn, which
Beautiful.
looks good to me.
Beautiful. This move also creates this juicy d3 outpost for your knight. Can you see it, Satya? The knight can also become an octopus at some point on the d3 outpost. He should have played d4 like 10 moves ago. You gave him a chance to play d4. He didn't. And now he's paying the price for that, right? It's an incredibly beautiful game so far from positional perspective.
Right, as expected, he moved his knight. I know that when I move my pawn to
e3.
e3, it will not be a mate threat because his g2 pawn is protected by his
That's
knight.
correct.
But at least I can activate my rook
Beautiful. Your rook is
and
getting happy.
then
Yes.
perhaps bring the rook back and
Just
put
double up.
pressure
Just double up the
on
rooks.
d4 pawn.
Beautiful move. Activation of the queen, also
Takes,
the rook. I
takes.
love it, Satya. Beautiful.
Now he protected with the knight.
Just double up the
So
rooks,
I'm
please.
wondering if I should push G G
No.
G7 to G5.
No. I mean, your rook is sleeping. Come on. Bring everyone to the party first. Why are you rushing with g5? Bring everyone to the party with rook e8. Because this will create rook e2 ideas, right? Maybe rook e2 directly, by the way, to hit the pawn on g2. But I very much like this move because the rook belongs on the open file, right? I'm 100% sure the rook belongs on e8. So I might make that move first before dealing with other ideas like g5 in this position, Satya. Come on, rook e8.
And attack his knight. But forming a rook battery
Yes, you're coming there.
sounds
Sounds
better to
great.
me. I don't
Sounds
know if it's
great.
really good or not, but let me try that.
Obviously, it's good. It doesn't even require much calculation, right, Satya? I want you to gain more confidence in making such moves. That's the most consistent way to play as well. You play e3 to activate your rook and you double up your rooks. What can be more natural and simple than this, right? Simple chess. Oh, I'm seeing a tactic, guys. Can you see a tactic? Guys, please stop the video right now. Black to play. Black to play. I'm seeing something. Let's see whether Satya has also found this winning combination for black. Beautiful moment to stop and think for a good move for black.
Now I think he made a mistake
He's
because
finding
when
it.
I take rook takes e1,
He's finding it.
he cannot take with his knight because that will be queen takes g2 checkmate.
No, 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 no. Rook takes e1, knight takes e1, queen takes g2 is not checkmate because the knight can recapture your queen, Satya. Please don't blunder.
So he will have to take with his queen. Then I
No.
will take his queen again with my rook.
No.
And
Is he
when
gonna
he
blunder?
takes my
Is he
rook
gonna blunder?
goes rook on
Don't do it.
a1,
Don't do it.
I don't see any problems. I know two rooks have more point value than queen, but I think queen is more powerful and it can be maneuvered a lot more easily. And at my level, I think handling queen is better than handling two rooks.
Let's see what you
So
did here, Satya.
I want to
I hope you didn't
exchange
blunder.
two rooks with his for his queen.
But you're miscounting because even if he takes with the queen, then it's not two rooks for the queen. It's only one rook for the queen, right? Because imagine, even if he takes with the queen, takes, white only has a single rook for your queen. Satya, you're missing something. It's a visualization mistake, right? They only have a single rook against your queen. You already captured their rook only one, Satya. So maybe you get tired. Something is missing here, around here, right? Something is missing in terms of visualizations. Aha, and now let's see whether Satya found the finishing blow in this position. I'm seeing a beautiful idea. A prompt is, of course, removing the defender tactic. Let's see whether Satya see that this knight on e1 is the sole defender against the checkmate on g2.
Oh, he took with the knight.
He must have.
That is a blunder.
No, but you just told me that before. In this position, you want to go queen takes g2. Hopefully, you did not blunder with queen takes g2, Satya. Let's
Because
see.
when I take that knight with my rook,
Oh,
he
beautiful.
will lose his queen.
Beautiful. Now you see it. Now you see it. Nice. He mentioned rook takes e1 right now, guys. That's a correct move.
Well, when I take the knight with the rook, yeah, he will have to give up his queen. And then I can checkmate him on queen takes g2.
Beautiful.
So
Beautiful.
I think he's lost.
He's lost and he resigns. Right.
Okay, he resigned. So I probably did
Bravo.
not play the ideal game, but I'm happy
You played very well.
that I was able to win.
A very instructive game, Satya. I will just show you 4 key moments as I described in the video for those instructive mistakes. Here, white destroys their position by taking twice. As mentioned, it only helps your pieces, and also the knight can now jump to c6 directly. Going back, folks, if white didn't take twice on d5 and castle short, black could never get what they got in the actual game. Can you see why preserving the tension is usually a good policy? This is a perfect example for that. You take and you destroy your position, because as a result of these captures, no white pieces get any better, but I can see so many black pieces getting better. Plus, white is giving themselves a weak pawn on a semi-open file that could be later targeted in this position. Satya, problem number 2. Here you should have played the most natural move, knight c6, developing move that defends the pawn. Okay? You play f6. Your king is very safe, by the way, and you're blunting the bishop, which is also a good policy. But here, white should have played d4, another very instructive positional mini plan. By playing d4, white not only activates their pieces like this, but also gets rid of the backward pawn on d3. It cannot get more instructive than this. That's how we form plans in chess. Plans revolve around weaknesses, either to get rid of a weakness in our position or activating our bad pieces. Look at the white pieces. Terrible, terrible, terrible. After d4, all 3 pieces are getting some life, don't you think? It's as simple as that. That's how you form mini plans in chess. This way, your pawn play will also improve. Beautiful moment. He doesn't play it. Allows you to get the pieces out in his position. After knight c5, you looked at queen e7, knight takes b7, rook b8, Satya, and you correctly saw rook c1. That's a beautiful counter trick that you saw for the opponent, because now he's rescuing his knight on c5, but you didn't give yourself more choices. As I saw during the game, there is also bishop b6 move here. Look at this. Your queen is hitting that knight on the rim, and rook c1 no longer works because queen takes b7 guards your knight on c6, and black is winning this game. So as you grow stronger, your calculation process should improve, and you should give yourself more choices, especially when you see a trap piece like this. You should not only settle for a single rook b8 move, but look at the entire board and find those hidden resources, Satya. Okay? But you play queen c8. This is still a good position for us because white has spent 4 full tempi just to exchange their good knight for your good bishop, right? So that's why black is still keeping the positional advantages. Look at those white pieces, still terrible, and also a backward pawn on d3. Final instructive segment, Satya, here. Instead of rook e8, I would go rook d8 here. Why? Because I'm forming my plans around the weaknesses in the position. I'm seeing the backward pawn on d3. That's a weak pawn. I'm seeing my bad rook on a8, and I'm combining these two things. This doesn't require any calculation. You can play the move in very, very short time, Satya, right? You take it from there because you're 100% sure the rook will be useful on the semi-open file. For example, knight f4 will come, and how can they even defend the pawn on d3? They are in deep trouble after this move, Satya. You play rook 8. This is also a good move, by the way. And the final point is, of course, this terrible exchange for white on c6. They are only weakening their king. They're only creating further targets. Now those two pawns are in trouble, and how can they even guard the pawn on d3, right? Terrible trade. And here we can still go rook d8, by the way, but I very much like queen d5 because you have a very nice idea also to later activate your rook in case they go d4, which they do, by the way. d4 is what they played. They should have played the move way before, by the way. And beautiful reaction e4 because the bishop is buried. The knight is chased around. You're also gaining this juicy d3 post for your knight. Incredible, beautiful move. And also your follow-up is amazing, Satya. e3 activates the rook, activates the queen, and we are cashing in on the king side. Please look at our pieces, folks. Please look at the black pieces and compare them with their white counterparts. It's as simple as that, in fact. We have a crushing positional advantage, and he cracks under pressure. Final piece joins the game, Satya. Again, you should play such moves quickly. You're 100% sure the rook belongs on e8. And the moment you activate your final piece, he cracks under pressure. He goes rook e1. You're winning anyways in this position. Even if white plays some normal moves like this, black has so many different ways to intensify the attack. For example, queen h5 starts eyeing this h2 point. And just to give you a sample line here, Satya, g3 fails because of knight h3 fork, of course. That's easy. And if they defend like this, then we have so many nice ideas. Queen g6 hints at those ideas. Also looks at this d3 point. Look at your octopus knight on d3, hitting the rook, hitting the bishop. And it also paves way for moves like queen g3. Satya, you see it, right? You see this beautiful coordination and beautiful black pieces, complete domination and completely winning advantage. -6 or something for black here. The material is equal purely because of coordination. We have a crushing positional advantage here. Beautiful position you got yourself, and he cracked under pressure, and beautiful short calculation that finish off this game, Satya, right? Incredibly beautiful. If they take on e1, comes this mate on g2. Otherwise, the entire game is finished. Thank you so much for sending me your game, Satya. I'm so humbled by your kind feedback on YouTube. You told me that chess interest has been reignited after you start watching my channel. Chess is my passion as well, and I'm so happy to spread my passion to you. Wishing you all the best. Please keep on watching. Please keep on enjoying and learning. Thank you so much, folks.